BET is betting on creators, a beloved streetwear brand is hitting reset behind the scenes, and a popular Black-owned hair care brand is sparking a conversation about what ownership actually looks like. Welcome to the Kickback Briefing. Welcome to the Kickback with Keri podcast. I'm your host, Keri Henderson, and this is another episode of the Kickback Briefing. In these episodes, we talk about the latest wins, challenges, and stories shaping business and culture, and some of the biggest lessons we can learn from them. In today's episode, we're talking about how the Jason Lee and BET deal is reshaping what ownership looks like in the creator economy. We're talking about what it means for the Fear of God streetwear brand to eliminate their CEO position. And we're talking about the Black hair care brand, the Doux, taking a minority investment and the nuance around scaling a business. So the first story I want to talk about is the Jason Lee BET deal because it is a great lesson in the importance of ownership and how to leverage your IP to get paid, okay? So BET is launching the Creator Studio, and according to AfroTech, this is a platform that will serve as a hub for both emerging and established voices, providing the infrastructure needed to expand across digital, social, and streaming platforms. If you guys are not familiar with Jason Lee, he is the founder of Hollywood Unlocked, which is a huge media platform. He also has his own show called The Jason Lee Show, which is housed on Hollywood Unlocked, on the website, on YouTube channel, across social media. So a part of this deal, the Jason Lee Show will be the flagship series for BET, and it'll be a license to BET, which is super, super smart because the Jason Lee Show is something that he already owns. So he's basically saying, hey, BET, I'm licensing you to use the Jason Lee Show on your platforms, which is great for him because now he gets to expand his audience reach with his show, right? His show will be housed on BET platforms and vice versa. BET will now have exposure to his platform. Because I went to the website for Hollywood Unlocked, and if you go under shows, it says the Jason Lee Show. But the last two episodes also have the BET logo on them because now it's licensed with BET. So they are cross-promoting basically each other and using each other's platforms to expand their reach. So the lesson here for us is the importance of ownership. If you guys follow Jason Lee, if you're familiar with him, you know he always talks about ownership. Ownership, ownership, ownership. You always want to own your stuff. And yes, we live in a creator economy. Building personal brands online, creating content online is currency. But the question you want to ask is, do you own anything that you're creating? Do you have a website where you can house that content? If you're building an audience online, do you have a way to reach your audience outside of social media? We know these social media platforms are not reliable, right? All the changes, the different ownership, none of them are reliable. Can you reach your audience outside of these platforms? If you're hosting or creating for other platforms, do you have a way and a right to that content that you're creating for them? Is there a way that you can get rights to that content so that you can add it to your portfolio? The thing about ownership and creating content is that you don't need permission from anybody else to get started. You want to create something, you create it. You want to build a platform, you build it, right? Podcasting, publishing, writing, producing, filmmaking. You have a phone. These iPhones, these Android phones can film some amazing content. You don't need a lot to get started, right? You want to own the stuff that you're creating so you don't have to ask for permission. And the goal, right? Jason Lee is the blueprint that you create content that people find valuable. You'll get paid to do what it is that you want to do. At the end of the day, BET is paying him to do something he was already doing. The Jason Lee Show is not new. That show has been around for a couple years. You can go back and see previous episodes, previous seasons, and I'm curious to see if they're now licensing everything moving forward or if he's going to start sharing previous conversations and interviews that he's done on their platform. But they're basically paying him to do what he was going to do. He just now, with this licensing deal, has more capital to continue to produce the show, maybe do more behind the scenes, because I think a part of the deal was supposed to be behind the scenes content. He now has the funds to do that. If he wanted to expand his studio or equipment or whatever it is, he now has the capital from the licensing deal to continue to produce a show that he was going to produce regardless. So you want to own your stuff. So one, that you could leverage it, license it, and two, if something were to happen, you get into a partnership deal, you get into some type of agreement and you got to part ways, you still own everything that you created. It is always going to be yours. So when it comes to being a creator, you want to focus on creating something that you own so you're not beholden to anyone or any entity. So the next topic I want to talk about is fear of God deciding to eliminate their CEO position. And I know you're probably thinking like, well, like, why is that a big deal? But a few things came to mind when I saw this headline and I went down the rabbit hole. So if you guys are not familiar with Fear of God is a very popular luxury streetwear brand created by Jerry Lorenzo in 2013. It is one of the most recognizable streetwear brands. You want to think muted tones, elevated basics, oversized silhouettes. And the company started out very, luxury, and you see it expand into a more commercial space with their essentials line. So you'll see like essentials, Fear of God. That created a price point that got them to the masses. So recently, a CEO that they had at the company left, and the founder, Jerry, decided we're going to eliminate the CEO role. And this is what the brand had to say when they made that decision. They said, our responsibility extends beyond the success and failures of the tangible. We are committed to an eternal vision guided by alignment, intention, and consideration. Now, according to Hip Hop Wired, the CEO that they brought on was viewed as the operator that would help the label mature in business, strengthen distribution, and continue expanding globally. And so when I heard the statement about they're committed to the eternal vision guided by alignment, intention, and consideration, and I saw that they eliminated this position, one thing I thought was maybe something happened and the vision of the brand got off track, right? And so one of the lessons I just thought of immediately when I saw this story was that you have to stay focused and pivot when you are moving away from your vision, because your vision is your guiding light. Your vision decides where you're going, how you're going to do things, who you partner with, who you don't partner with. Of course, we don't know the details of what happened with the CEO. I think he was there for maybe 2 years, a little bit less than that. But when you start to deviate from your vision, it may be time to pause, reset, reflect, and see how we can make a change. Vision regarding your brand, vision regarding your career, vision regarding who you are as a person, the life you want to live. Your vision is your guiding light, and your vision really is your decision maker on who you interact with, who you partner with, and the things that you're going to do. Remember, last month we talked about adapting, right? When we talked about Issa Rae partnering with TikTok and getting into the digital space, she had to adapt because the market is changing. But at the end of the day, her vision is to always focus on creators of color. So even with the TikTok deal, creators of color are in that online series, that the micro series that they're doing, content is created by people of color. The vision is still clear. How we're accomplishing that vision may change, but the vision is still the vision. So I'm wondering with Fear of God, if somewhere along the lines, expanding globally, hiring a CEO, the vision got lost. Secondly, I thought just because something is an industry norm or workplace norm, a society norm, doesn't mean it's right for you. When you're growing a brand, growing a business, you get investors, you want to scale, it makes sense to like have a board of directors, have a CEO, maybe, have these different titles, whatever it is that they say you need for your business to scale and thrive. But what if that's not the right fit for you? What if they say you're supposed to move a certain way in corporate if you want to scale the corporate ladder? What if that doesn't work for you? What if society says at a certain age or at a certain point in life, or you're supposed to be living and doing certain things, that may not be in alignment with you, and that's okay. And so I think it's really important to recognize, again, it's about vision and alignment, what works best for you. I just did a post on LinkedIn about Lonnie Nesbitt, the jewelry designer from Jelani Jewels. We had her on the podcast last year, and she was out of New York. She's from New York. She started her brand in New York, but after a while, she was like, New York is just not in alignment with who she is and the life she wants to live. She moved to Miami. Creativity came back. She's living her best life on the beach. I told her I get jealous because she gets sunny days all the time, and she'll post pictures like she's out in the morning by the beach. I wish, right? But she had to make a decision. I could stay in New York where you're supposed to be because it's New York, fashion capital, right? This is a place to be for all the fashion things. Or I can follow what is true to me, move to Miami, and her business is thriving, her creativity is flowing, and she's living her best life. And so you just want to think about, you can go against the grain. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. You don't have to do what everyone else says you have to do. Do what is true to you. Back to your vision. Vision for you, your business, your brand, the life you want to live. The third thing I thought about, which is something I think is just a life principle in general. Y'all, we are allowed to change our mind. Okay? Excuse me. You are allowed to change your mind. Change your mind as often as you need to. until you get whatever it is that you need to get right, okay? I think sometimes we feel like if we make a decision, we got to stick it through. In this case with Fear of God, I don't know. Maybe they didn't have, I don't know if they had a CEO before. I didn't go down that rabbit hole. Maybe there's something they were trying out. And he said, you know what, this ain't working. We got to remove this position as a founder. I'm just going to step in as a founder. We're going to get back in alignment, get back on track with why I created the brand in the first place. You are allowed to change your mind. I know somebody needs to hear that today. You are allowed to change your mind, okay? If it's not working for you no more, change your mind. If you try something out and you're like, you know what, I'm not really feeling it, you ain't gotta stay committed to that. Don't be beholden to one decision that you made if you find out, hey, that's not really working for me. Life is all about changing our mind and figuring it out as we go along, because nobody knows what they're doing, y'all. We all are just trying to figure out this thing called life, okay, together. So I just needed someone to hear that you are allowed to change your mind. So our third story is about the Doux, which is a popular Black-owned hair care brand. They recently took a minority investment from VMG Partners to accelerate the brand's growth in the United States. Now, this is a brand that was founded by the husband and wife duo, Maya and Brian Smith, and it's available at Target, Walmart, Sally, CVS. And one of the things the owner said that I got from AfroTech is that they said they really love this partnership because the partners let them be founders. They say they let us be us. They don't touch the brand. It was very important for them to maintain the integrity of the Doux, and they've been able to really thrive so far in the partnership and grow the brand ultimately to what they want it to be. And when I saw the headline, I was like, oh, great, they got an investment and they're still majority owners. And I know most people, when they saw that headline, they were excited about that, because when we see a beloved Black-owned brand get acquired or get a major investment, the first thing people say is like, oh, the formula is going to change. Oh, it's no longer Black-owned, etc., right? All those same talking points. But then I had a thought. Not everybody wants to maintain ownership of their businesses, okay? And that's something I don't think we talk about or acknowledge enough. Some people create a business to scale their business, to sell their business, and then move on to something else. And I think we need to allow for nuance in that conversation when we talk about scaling Black-owned businesses. Not all entrepreneurs want to maintain the role of being an entrepreneur once they sell their business. They have to scale. They have to pay back investors. You know, it's an opportunity to acquire generational wealth if you sell your business, right? And you now have funding to start other businesses and pour back into other small businesses that also need funding. Because we know the one thing, and we've had this conversation on this podcast multiple times with multiple business owners, is they all need funding. So if I'm a business owner and I'm able to scale and sell a business for $100 million, I want to be able to take that $100 million, set up a investment firm, and start investing in small Black-owned businesses. I want to be able to pour back into my community. And so sometimes business owners will sell and they'll stay on a CEO. I think Honey Pot did that and Mael did that when they partnered with Procter & Gamble. But sometimes people just want to scale and they just want to exit. And we need to allow room for that, okay? I know, and I say this as someone who is very much like, Black-owned business, we got to circulate the dollars in our communities. I get it. We want these businesses to stay Black-owned. But I think the more important question is if they do scale, what are they doing with all that money that they acquire? Are they just hoarding it? Are they building something else that can benefit and serve our communities? Or are they also serving that community with that funding, giving back to nonprofit organizations, giving back to other small Black business owners so that they can scale their businesses and they can also build generational wealth and we can continue to build that wealth in our communities? That's the question we need to be asking. What are you doing when you get acquired and when you do scale and when you're able to exit? What impact are you making in your community then? So I really want to know your thoughts about that, y'all, because it is always a topic of conversation. I know when the Doux, it was announced that they got a minority investment, somebody on Threads was like, see, now it's no longer Black owned and the formula's gonna change. And people had to tell them like, y'all, relax. There's still majority ownership. They got an investment, but they still own the business. But we go straight to that idea, right? Like if it's sold, it's gone, everything's gonna change. And so I'm really curious to know what y'all think about that conversation and this nuance around scaling, maintaining ownership, or moving on to something else. So y'all let me know, especially if you're watching this on YouTube, let me know in the comments your thoughts. So those were the 3 topics I wanted to cover today. But before we wrap up, I do want to bring your attention to the May issue of the Kickback with Keri newsletter. At the time of this recording, we are about, 2 weeks? Is it a week or 2 weeks since the Supreme Court ruling on the Voting Rights Act? And a lot of us feel a type of way about that, okay? Especially if you were someone who has parents that were teenagers when the Voting Rights Act was signed. You know, you have parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, all the generations that came before us that marched, bled, died for our right to vote. I feel some type of way about that. I know you probably feel some type of way about that. So I share those thoughts in the May issue of my Kickback with Keri newsletter, but I also share some action steps and some resources and ways that we can show up in this moment, because y'all, like it or not, this is our civil rights moment, okay? I didn't think in 2026 we would be experiencing Jim Crow 2.0, but here we are, because literally less than 24 hours after that ruling, Southern states got busy, okay? If you've been paying attention to the news, you know they got busy redrawing maps. And so it was not on my bingo card. I don't think for any of us, especially millennials, this is not what we were promised as when we became adults. This is not the life we were promised, but here we are. So I encourage you, click the link in the show notes, check out the May issue of the Kickback with Keri newsletter. You do not have to subscribe to read this month's issue, but along in the newsletter, I just wanted to point out as well, the newsletter, yes, I will talk about what's happening in real time, keep you up to date on what's happening because we have to stay informed. But the goal of the newsletter is really to bring light to the amazing things that we're doing as a community. Because we are bombarded with so much negative news, I created it as a safe space for us to find some joy. So yes, we're not going to shy away from what's happening, because I can't issue a newsletter and not talk about the elephant in the room. I can't do that, right? We have an obligation to show up for ourselves, for our communities, for our family and our friends, for the people that came before us. We have that obligation. But the newsletter is also a space for us to feel seen and celebrated. So I encourage you to check out the newsletter. If you've never subscribed to the Kickback with Keri newsletter, you've never seen it, but you hear me talk about it at the end of every episode, to make sure you subscribe to the newsletter. Check out the May issue. I have Black culture stories, so we're highlighting some amazing things happening in the community. There's always an item of the month, which is, of course, a Black-owned brand. I provide read, watch, and listen recommendations, so a Black author to read, TV shows, films, television, documentaries to watch that are either written by Black writers, producers, or they feature Black talent. Of course, there's music. And I also keep you guys updated if you ever miss a podcast episode. All of that is in the newsletter. So please click the link below in the show notes. Check out the newsletter. It will resonate with you, I promise. If you've been upset about things and how things are going, it will resonate with you. You can also, I believe, if you click on that link, see some previous editions as well. So check it out, y'all. Yeah, it's been a crazy 15 months, y'all. We gonna get through it, but it's still been a crazy 15 months. And so I encourage us to feel the feels, feel the grief, the anger, all the emotions, because it's a rough time for everybody. It is a really, really rough time for everybody, and it's hard, and it is not something I think we ever imagined would be our reality. So that's all I got for y'all today in this episode of the Kickback Briefing. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know your thoughts on any of the topics that were talked about today. As always, y'all, I appreciate y'all for tuning in this episode. I appreciate you guys for leaving your ratings and your reviews, sharing the podcast with your family and friends. I thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time. If you enjoyed this episode, drop a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to the Kickback with Keri newsletter.